Hello, everyone. This is David Jagno from Meta, and today I have a very, very special interview, something that we're very excited to share with you. I'm going to be talking to Baron and Kospy from Warpfrog all about Blade and Sorcery Nomad and the new update that just is coming out very soon for Quest headsets.
Hello, mate. I'm the Baron from Warpfrog. I'm the PR manager for the studio. Thanks to a little bit of wizardry there from the post-production team, pulling our Blade and Sorcery avatars into Meta Horizon worlds.
Hey, I'm Kospy, so I'm the CEO of Warpfrog and main developer of Blade and Sorcery.
I'm beside myself with excitement here, so let's just go ahead and dive right into this. Baron, Kospy, what can you tell me about Blade and Sorcery Nomad? What has this experience been like developing the game for Quest and porting it from PC? You try to take it back a few years and tell me what it's been like over the years working on this game for so long.
Yeah, so hello, David. So, yeah, I'm Kospy. So, if I want to resume simply, I think it was quite of an adventure. It was all about managing the unexpected for 7 years. I'm working on Blade and Sorcery. I will probably start by explaining a bit the genesis of Blade and Sorcery. I originally worked on Blade and Sorcery alone, so I was like a solo dev. So I'm not coming from the video game industry. 7 years ago, I was working on an IT system administrator, but after more than 10 years of corporate job, I just hit and decided to move on working on something I love. That was video game. I was not coming from nothing. I'm a modder since my childhood. So I did some mod on Fallout, Skyrim, and more recently, Kerbal Space Program. I did mod that was some quite popular on Kerbal Space Program at the very last. Working in video game has always been a passion. So I was very excited to work in VR at some point. I wanted to realize a childhood dream is creating a virtual world where we can immerse ourselves and doing whatever we want. So that's where Blade and Sorcery comes. So I have quite of a different background, maybe, of some other dev. But yeah, I chose a medieval time and wait on with Unity and did the Blade and Sorcery on myself at first. It was quite different. I had a quite different view of Blade and Sorcery at first. So I did something quite different with using not following the best standard, I will say, at the time. So I went with smooth locomotion. I went with no 1-1-2-1 on positioning. I did something from what I found personally fun and simply followed my taste and guts. So anyway, I worked on that for maybe 2 years on that on myself. At some point, closer to release, I went with something that was a bit unexpected. A lot of people was really starting to have a lot of interest into the game. That's where things began with Baron. I think it's interesting to have the intro at first, because at this moment we was doing the pre-ed beta of Blade and Sorcery, so we have on Discord, because we started to have a lot of YouTubers interested into the game. There is, in all these YouTubers, there was Baron that come to me and just started to help me on a few things, managing the community and everything. And it was really great for me because social thing is not really my thing, So it was really great to have him come back and help me on that. So I will let Baron continue on the presentation.
Dude, yeah, those were crazy times, man, 2018. I remember it so well. It was nuts. I was floating around as a YouTuber at the time. I was huge into VR. But I was on a quest for something. I didn't know what it was. I was always looking at all these games and something was never hitting me right. And my little thing was like anti-hyperbole, like anti-sensationalism, and looking for those little indie gems. And I remember, man, when I met you, it was on Reddit, and it was that thread, someone bemoaning, melee games in VR. And they hate that the wiggle sword, as they call it, wiggle sword effect. And I remember you in that thread being like, I have a little game, you know, like, and you were saying to the guy, do you want a key to try this game? And I slid in there. I was like, oh, I'd love to try. I'm just this little puppet pirate YouTuber. I'd love to try this game. And dude, I remember trying it. And the first thing I remember seeing, if any fans of the game remember the old days, looking straight into that mirror and seeing my hands, you know, seeing my full body and moving a sword, and I had like delay to it and stuff like that. And I just was like, oh my God, I was obsessed with it. I was really obsessed. And it was like a real kind of eureka moment or something. I remember running back to you, Kospy, and shooting you a DM and just being like, dude, like, you have something here. You really have something. And it wasn't even about YouTube for me, man. I was just obsessed with it. Like, as a fan of the game, I just thought it was brilliant. And I remember bugging you for months, being like, let's put this out there. Like, people are going to love this. Like, people are going to want to see this and talk about it. And Kospy being like, it's not ready yet, and it's still like, you know. And he had this attitude, you know, didn't really want to put it out to the content creation community because he was worried about what people might suggest the game is, you know, because it wasn't ready yet, and he didn't want to like over hype it or like misrepresent it. I was like, man, it was like the perfect stars alignment. I was like, that's my thing. I was like, I'm all about that. I was like, let me cover this and I'll do like a warts and all coverage of it. You know, you show the problems of the game, but you say, you know, it's just, we're working on it. You know, like, this is the game. We're not going to BS anyone about it. And that was, oh man, that was exactly, I think, what the community were wanting. Because I think everyone's just fed up with the kind of, you know, the state of the games industry these days, you know, and we're all sick of BS marketing and stuff like that. And that really resonated with the community. And then it was, that was it, wasn't it? I mean, that was the history of it, because it's like the studio was born. It was a grassroots kind of studio creation. And we always kind of kept those ideals of, like, you know, anti-hyperbole and stuff. Like, we go out of our way to kind of like self-sabotage, sometimes on the worst marketer ever, self-sabotage or reduce our hyperbole, or because we don't want to overdo it and create like runaway hype engines. So we'll sometimes like kind of like not tell people what's coming in an update, so that when it does come, they'll be pleasantly surprised, you know.
Yeah, I think you know, what you're talking about with the anti-hyperbole and, you know, trying to keep expectations grounded. It's a very humble perspective, given the game's not only success, but the underlying framework and accomplishment you have here with your melee combat and the physics and everything. It's, you know, became sort of the standard for melee combat in VR. And I think, you know, like you said, Baron, and for me, myself, the first time I tried it, truly transformative, you know. And I think that approach to authenticity is at the core of VR itself, as well as your game. And I would just love to hear about that journey of, you know, getting the game launched on PC, getting that huge community support, and now, as of a couple of years ago, bringing it to Quest with the Blade Sorcery Nomad version. You know, what's that been like as well? Sort of a second life for the game, allowing it to really flourish all the more on the path to the finish line that you're on now.
So I think you took a good resume, at the time when we meet Baron. As I said, I was really following not best practice, so it was really a different kind of game. And I was really wanted to slow down the hype, because I was not sure that the direction I was going is going to please everyone. But it seemed it was pretty good, in fact. We then went for that with Baron, and we continued to work on the view I added on VR. So there was Update 1, Update 2, Update 3. We went really ahead on that. We gave to the community what they wanted. We tried to add more stuff, more feature. I wanted to add more magic also too, because at first it was really more medieval and more melee combat. So I added more magics and make the game a bit more fantasy. Obviously at first it was on PC VR. It was right now, even if it was already big for us, a smaller community. We knew that at some point we was going to have the quest is going to be on the balance, because that's where most of the player is going now. So we took the decision to continue to work on PCVR for some time, to try to focus on that. But also we took an important decision, was to cut down the game in two, and not downgrade the game on PCVR and do a specific version, so Blade Sorcery Nomad for the quest. And the idea was to keep the PC version as it is and do a special version. Maybe, obviously, with graphic a bit different, so different graphic with suites for the quest too. That's what we did, and we have to compromise a bit on a few things like the physics, but I will say in the end it worked pretty well, and I think we are pretty happy with the results, because to be honest, the quest was daunting at first because we was not expecting the game to run at all. We was really surprised to see that on the quest 2, in fact, it was working better than expected. And the issue was not even the physics, it was more like the graphical part of Blade Sorcery that was not really that optimized. So we took over that and we tried to optimize even more the graphic side. We optimized a bit the physics too, obviously, but yeah, it was a common thing for both platforms. I think both platforms benefits from that, because they got some performance improvement on PCVR, and we had to be able to release on Quest. At the time, it was the Quest 2 and the Quest 1, but we have to drop the Quest 1 because it was too much of a complicated, and it was not enough memory for the game to work. But we really commit on the Quest 2, and I think we was really happy. It was a crazy time at this moment because I was still a bit alone on the development side, so I did a lot on myself. And yeah, I think I don't see much of the day at this time during the release of the Quest. It was crazy.
I was worried about you, man. I was real worried about you. Yeah. Ironically, too, the Quest 2 was like the lifeboat for Blade and Sorcery Nomad. You know, the Quest 1 wasn't cutting it in terms of hardware. And now, as we're porting 1.0, the Quest 3 is like, like I wish we could be just developing for Quest 3 because it's like a big improvement. And the Quest 2 is the one we're really like working hard to optimize, you know?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's, the 1.0 update. The whole reason we're really here to talk is a tremendous, change for the game. I think whenever we spoke, Baron, about when I was coming to PC, you talked about it being the biggest update ever, that it really kind of totally transforms the game. So for those that are unaware of what 1.0 means for Blade and Sorcery Nomad and what Crystal Hunt is as a game mode, like, what is this update? Why is it such a big deal? And what does it bring to the game? Yeah,
man, the update, it scared me, man. It scared me when we were doing it. I was scared talking to the guys about it. Many nights I was tossing, turning, thinking that this should have been a different game, not an update, because we spent so much time in it. This was a huge update. It was a huge deal, and not just in the sheer amount of content that we had, but also it was like an entirely new game dropped on the old game. And the reason we did this was because this was the last update of the development cycle. So 5 years PCVR for us, and this was the final big love letter update. The number one thing people always asked for was a progression mode, some kind of like storied element to the game where you could start and finish the game. And we always kind of dragged our feet in it because it's such a huge ask. This was a simulation sandbox, in a trench coat disguised as an action game. So we had all these mechanics, and we're just, how do you make it work? So that's why we said, well, last update, we're going to go out with a bang here. Crystal Hunt update. We have progression mode, which, the game has a start, has a finish, a definitive ending. We've got deep lore, crazy amount of deep lore that if you want, you could just play the game as a surface level action game. But if you really, really want to go into it, you can get right into, like, we have, this fake language we made for the game, the Dalgarian language, and you could get into it. You could crack that language with a cipher, and even get into the depth of like reading, inscriptions on pillars and stuff.
It
doesn't
sorry
do
to
anything.
interrupt you here, but are you fluent? I have to know.
I am not fluent, no. And in fact, I suck at ciphers and things like that too. So we actually included an option for people like me who are challenged in this way. And there's a way you can like automatically translate it if you just want to play the game, at that kind of level.
Yeah, but we have some people that are fluent into the new language. I know that the ones that created the language, he decipher without help. So he worked so much on that I think it's pretty good now.
Did you see that actually, Kospy? There was someone in the community there recently that made like a font, a Dalgarian font for like Microsoft Word. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
there's like hardcore fans, but so we have the crystalline progression mode. That's like the main big juicy feature, but in content it's nuts too. 78 skills, that's like magic spells and stuff, and nothing is a number crunch. They're all stuff you can do. 76 weapons, that's not including arrows, quivers, so that these are actual weapons. 90 individual armor pieces that comprise 10 full armor sets. Then we have an entirely new dungeon biome coming. That's the Dalgarian dungeons, our semi-procedurally generated dungeon. We have Golem Boss that went down really well with PC community. This is a big, massive enemy with unique behaviors. You can climb all over him in 6-step field. And then we have reworks coming to all the sandbox maps. All new kind of graphics there, tweaks and stuff, new ocean. And so it was huge. It was like, what would you say, Kospy? It was like maybe three of our old updates in one update,
I think it's the biggest update. On there, we have the full team. So because with that one, it was only me. With that, it was me with Baron. Things like this. So we increase in the team as the update go. So starting update 7, it was maybe like 10 people. After that, it was even more. So each update was more and more content. It was more and more crazy. I think the last one is really the biggest. The thing is, the game was really, as you said, it was just a sandbox. So we have to work reverse. People that join the team have to catch the train and say, hey guys, we are doing a sandbox, we are doing a medieval game when we can combat and stuff, but we have to add some kind of meta game on gameplay that hooks the player and have a progression system. So it was really hard for some of the team members to come by and just say, okay, we are going to do that now. We have to catch the trend. So it was really a way of development, I think, because it was not the pre-production phase or stuff like that. It was more like taking the train while it was running. So, but it was really interesting, I think. I think everyone learned a lot about this update. And that's what is really awesome on game development, because we had all kinds that kind of context. And with VR in mind, it's even better because we are really like, pioneer on what can be done on VR. So yeah, that update was huge and it was really adding, like you say, another game on the top of the game. But I think it ended up pretty well, and we were always worried, and I'm always worried that maybe we could have done much more. But in reality, when we took over the 5 year of Insane World, I think we did pretty good. But you always never be happy with with what you do. You always want to improve and do better. But yeah, it was crazy time and yeah, I think it was worth it. Yeah,
we had to do it though, didn't we, Kospy? It was like we had to go out this way, like because we have some players following us for 5 years. So this is like a storyline, for some people following the studio. So it was like we were going to do one last major update, I should say, because we're still updating the game, but in terms of major content, one last major content update. Let's do it big. And now like I'm hyped for Nomad players, because I mean, Nomad players are playing the game for years. Like they think they know what Blade and Sorcery is, for years and years, and players enjoy that game. But it's like, for those guys, it's like you have no idea. Like it's this juicy content is coming your way, and I I know they're excited for it. My inbox is flooded every day with Nomad players. Any news? Any news? It's like, I promise you, when there's news, I'll post. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know for me personally, I'm one of those people that you talked about at the beginning that was craving some sort of progression mode. And I remember when the Crystal Hunt mode was first kind of teased years ago, and I've resisted the urge to dive in on PC because I want to play it on Nomad first, and so I'm impatiently waiting. And so I'm really excited for it just on a personal level, but also just for the community as well. Like you said, everyone is so hyped for this new update. I guess if you want to kind of tell me about the PC VR version versus the Quest version, you alluded to the fact that obviously Nomad does have some compromises that needed to be made. But for this update, it's relatively 1-to-1. Is that right? Like most of the features and content are all there. It's not, like you cut a bunch of stuff to get it to work with Quest. Is that correct?
Dude, that's the beauty part. Like I was playing the game earlier today. I was playing the Quest version. We have like a work in progress build right now. We're testing, and I was playing it, and I did like a Dalgarian dungeon run. Did a golem fight. I was just like, this is cool. Like, this is the Quest. This is 1.0 the Quest. And I'm real satisfied that we are as close to 1-to-1 feature parity as possible. Right now, I believe we're actually at 1-to-1. I believe I'm correct in saying that, Kospy. I know we're working on some Dalgarian dungeon rooms that have optimization problems on Quest 2. So that's always a concern. But as of this moment, we are extremely on track, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing is the addition of Citadel. Citadel was a map that was on PC VR right now and didn't work on the Quest. But the good thing is our artistic team did really good, awesome work on optimization. We also learned a lot about how to optimize on the Quest. So we managed to make it work on the Quest 2 and obviously on the Quest 3. So we have a whole new sandbox map that is really impressive, I think, in VR because it's feature a bigger wise, and we also have a big ocean that we can see from really afar. We also work on improving the water, as you said, Baron, a bit. And I think the shader artists really did awesome work on the Quest because I really did not expect to have ocean to be that good, to be honest, on the Quest. And I think it really add because we have many scenes with water view and ocean view. So I think it was really important to have something better because let's be honest, the current water on Nomad is craps. It's really not good. So I was really upset about that because I just threw this thing because we could not make it better at the time. So really happy that we fixed that because it was for me a big thing. But anyway, we got some good improvement. And I think we are pretty much 1-to-1. We maybe have 1 or 2 rooms still that is still need to be optimized to the Quest. But I think in the pretty of the thing, we have all the weapon, all the skill, everything is the same. So except maybe this few rooms in the dungeon that may not appear because you need to optimize them. I think it's pretty much a 1-to-1 conversion, and I think it's not going to change a lot of things for Nomad player, except obviously the graphics, but it's a trade-off if you want to have the liberty to play as you want, especially if you want to play standalone, you don't have a PC VR. So I think we are pretty happy with this update right now. We obviously still need to work on optimization. I think it's a never-ending thing. But yeah, so far we are on the good direction to have something good, yeah.
What you were saying about Citadel, Kospy, that was that classic map that we never had on Nomad. And players used to always ask, do you think it could come to Nomad? We were always saying no. Because we weren't sure. We just couldn't optimize it. And now we have it. Now we have it. And it's coming. And that's one of those, I think that's a classic example of Warpfrog, at work there, cooking in secret. We didn't reveal this because we wanted it to be a surprise, because we wanted to make sure it worked. So we reduced a marketing opportunity just to make sure that it worked. you know, because we don't want to make promises and then break them. You know, that's kind of a real studio thing we have.
Yeah, that's great. I think you know, that mindset of player first, community first, for a single player game, no less, I think is relatively admirable, and I think that's a true testament to, you know, the way the studio functions and works and collaborates together, and, you know, keeps the community involved. You know, all that kind of stuff is a great testament to any developer looking to develop a game, especially if you're going to go into early access, such as Blade Sorcery did. You know, you've written the textbook on how to do a great job. So kudos to everyone at the studio for all of that.
Awesome, man.
And, you know, it's kind of a victory lap, obviously. Sorry.
Do you know something, David? Oh, no, sorry to go, but I was just going to say, you know, something that I feel, I'm not sure if you feel this way, Kospy, but Kospy and I are gamers from the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s. Like, we were PC gamers in the early 2000s. And I think we look back, I'm sure, with rose-tinted glasses. However, with those rose-tinted glasses, it felt different back then. It felt different being a gamer in the early 2000s. The whole industry was different. And I just think it was just the way marketing done was different, you know, and we went backwards to a lot of those kind of the way we remember it, whether it was or whether it wasn't, it doesn't matter. But the way we remember it being, we just went back to a lot of like marketing style, game design style, like studio philosophy style and stuff like that. And that has really resonated with people. I think it's a testament, first of all, that people are fed up with a lot of stuff in modern gaming industry. But just want to throw that out there because it's like, I feel like we did a lot of things right with the studio, and it's weird because it's like we didn't invent these things, but it's like we just harkened back to the way it used to be before things got real the way they are nowadays.
Yeah, we have some kind of nostalgia, I think, about the old time. Yeah. And I think VR was a perfect thing for me, and probably for Baron too, as you said. That is like VR again, pioneer again in a new VR field. And I think VR is a bit like the beginning of a new gaming era. And I think we really want to surf on that because it's really worthing. I really feel like VR is the old uniting, you know, and you have the gaming, and we are trying, everyone is trying to catch what we have to do, what is good, what is not good, and that stuff. And I think VR is that. We maybe talk about that later, but I think the best practice is still not something real in VR, and I still think we are in the infancy on VR, and we can do much better than that right now. So
it's the Wild West.
Yeah,
it's the Wild West right now, and like
exactly.
there's no rules. I think you're completely right about the nostalgia factor, because it's like it reminds me of being young and get my first PC and modding and playing PC games back then. And it's like you felt like a hacker or something like that. And it's with VR. When VR came along, it was this brand new technology. There's no big players, you know. There's no big studios dominating this industry. So it's just all these little indie devs just carving little spheres of influence, and no one knew the rules, no one knew the protocols. So that's why it was cool for us, because, you know, when you came along, Kospy and Warpfrog, you're doing your thing. You were kind of doing everything like wrong, quote unquote, you know, like you weren't following the trends, and so, like, in the end you made a trend, you know. It was kind of like the death of the Wiggle Sword game after Blade Sorcery. And that's why I love it, because it's like now we have a chance to be on that front line. We get to decide the rules, and there's no big studios. We can be that studio, you know, and it's real exciting because of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you really hit the nail on the head that by avoiding trends, you created your own trend. And you know, just look at, you know, the way that melee combat is done in most VR games, and I think a lot of developers can probably cite Blade Sorcery as a major inspiration. And so, you know, that's a very, very accurate way of looking at things right now. And you know, your note about nostalgia is interesting, because I fully agree that I feel like VR gamers are some of the nostalgic people I know. and it's funny to be obsessed with a future facing technology but always keeping a foot in the past at the same time. And I think respect for the past is so crucial, so I think taking those lessons forward has benefited you guys.
You know what, Dave, as well as that, like another one of the lessons we kind of carried with is big thing in game design. I always drive our game designer nuts because I'm always wrecking his head. But one thing we carried was that games of old, they didn't like patronize you. They were hard sometimes, like to get into because it didn't hold your hand at every step. There wasn't a quest arrow and a million pop-ups in the UI and stuff like that, and it didn't hold your hand every step of the way. You know what I mean? Like press forward to walk forward. It's like, oh, come on. Like, you know what I mean? And that was a big thing in the design and innovation of Blade and Sorcery. It was kind of like an approach to it was, don't take 2D game design. This is a whole new medium. This is a whole new canvas to paint on. So Kospy's approach to that was kind of that, like, what you see is what you get. Like, how do I pick up a cup? You just pick it up. Like, how do I switch swords in my hand? You just switch it in your hand. Like a very kind of physical, tactile, immersive kind of approach to game design.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course that has
exactly. Yeah. I'm more approaching the game like it's a simulation. I think VR is there for more like a simulation. Before we have like something like flight simulator and stuff like that. But I think with VR, we can be a medieval fighter or a fantasy mage simulator. So I think exactly what I want to do is creating simulation more than game. I mean, obviously we are going to have the game in that because we still want to have the thing fun because the real simulation is going to be a bit boring. But the idea is more like to simulate like you are in the movie and stuff like that. You are as a fighter, you are going to break havoc with your sword, or you are going to break havoc with your spell and stuff like that. So it's really a fantasy of being of empowerment of the player, and I think it's really about that. It's more like a traditional game where I think it would be terrible in traditional game anyway. I love simulation scene. I think the last mod I did on Kerbal Space Program was also a lot based on physics, but yeah, I think it really is my thing. Having seen that simulates. So if you do something, you expect this to happen in real life, it's going to happen in VR. So if I poke something, it just fall over the room. It's like in reality. If I just break something if I touch the wall, my hand is not going to go through the wall and stuff like that. So that's really an important part of Blade and Sorcery on the next game.
It's like the biggest secret of Blade and Sorcery is that it's not primarily an action game. It's primarily a simulation game. Like that throws people off all the time. It's a simulator pretending to be an action game. And, like I always think of it like it's a do-it-yourself roleplay game. Like you have all these tools, to be the guy, but you do it whatever way you want to do it. We're not telling you how to play the game. We don't have like a kind of way where in our minds how you're going to play that game. And I think that like real throws people off sometimes. But
yeah, I think a really good example of that was one of the first times I played the game. I was streaming it live, and I remember thinking to myself, like, kids. So because of the physics system, I can just do whatever I want. If I dual wield shields and just punch everybody, and it totally
absolutely.
Worked. It blew my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a good thing about Blade and Sorcery, but it's also, I understand why game designers don't go on that, because it's also a nightmare for game designer. Because game designers are used on common game, on traditional game, to have some kind of progression system that is really involved with number crunch. You have 20% more damage on your weapon. You have that kind of stuff. Your weapon is going to have more range and stuff like that. But we don't have anything on that on Blade and Sorcery. We nearly have done that. We have a skill tree that is only about having more power and more skill and more perk, I would say. And that's a difficulty because how we do a progression system with that. And I think the game designer really banged his head on that. And we also accepted that we are not going to have a really good curve for the progression system. We are going to have a more small cube, you know. We are going to have a little progression, but in the end, the player can finish the game with all the knife, you know, the first one you got. You can finish the game with that if you want. So because the system is done in a way it's realistic. If you just kill a guy but because you target the neck, he's going to die instantly. He's not going to have a bullet sponge in me or stuff like that, where it's spongy in me. So yeah, we don't have that. So it was a blessing for a lot of players, and I think it's a hurt of the game. But it's also on the game design side, I think it's afraid a lot of game developer because it's going to not be standard, you know. You are going to, okay, you have a boss, you can kill it really fast if you want because
Kospy,
you are very good. Yeah.
I always remember that, man, years and years and years ago in the early days, you saying to me when we were thinking about the armor system, and you saying like, this is the kind of game where you could stab like an armored knight in the neck and it kills him instantly, like a full plated armor. And, you know, as opposed to health bars or armor breaking off or anything like that. And dude, I remember when you said that, I was like, I'm so on board. You're like train right now. Like, you know, like I'm completely on this Blade and Sorcery train. That was exactly the kind of innovation that I wanted to see in VR. Doing something different. Not taking 2D concepts like health bars and stuff like that. This is like, I think if technology was like infinite, if there was no technological like limitations, I think this would be like the holodeck from Star Trek. That's kind of that's the vibe. It was trying to create like another world, not just a game in VR, but given this sensation that the players are in like another world. And I think that, did you ever notice this, Kospy, that like, I always hear this from creators, especially. They're always saying things like, I wish I could jump on the boat and sail into the horizon and just see what's over there, see what like other things are over there and like what adventures are there. And it's like, exactly. That's exactly the point. That's exactly what like the guys were trying to do when they were making the environments and stuff. Make it feel like you're in this world, that you really get the sensation that you could jump on the boat and sail and there'll be some other islands out there and you want it, you really want it, you know. Obviously we don't have it in the game because we have limited capacity as a studio, but that's the sensation you want to create.
Yeah, I like to call that a physical presence in VR game. So you know that your hand and stuff is going to touch things, you know, and you are going to have an impact on the physical world by moving stuff around. As other game where you have floating hand and stuff like that, and they are going to go through the wall. That kind of stuff, I hate that, but I understand some player maybe prefer the one-to-one hand and stuff like that. I'm not obviously saying that the game is going to be for everyone is going to love it, because I think some player may like more classic game. But I think gaming is something subjective, and I think a lot of players like different things. So on our side, we decide to go into the direction, but we are going to stay on this direction. We are not going to try to cater too much because I think a lot of games try to cater to too much player, and they are going with something that is more, without soul or taste. I don't know, but I think it's really important that we keep our soul of, okay, we like this kind of game, so we are going into this kind of game. So we are going to focus on combat. We are going to focus on interaction, even more physical presence in a way that the player feel being in another world, you know, being part. I'm not asking, can you do that? Oh no, in BD5, you know, no, I can do that. Yeah, oh, I did not think about that. There is really a lot of emergent gameplay in Blade Sorcery, and we saw player found some combination of spell, of thing that was pretty incredible when we saw that, and say, oh, I never thought about that. Oh, I could use this spell and just bring the guy there, and then I can cut his head and stuff. There is really this different way to combat, and I think it's always interesting to see, and I love to see all the videos that the player does too, because we can see how the player is doing, and everyone is different. Everyone has a different way to combat. It's not going to be driven by the game, it's driven by the player. And I think it's something that is really important for us.
That's the simulation factor right there, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
I always say to people, it's like the kind of design idea is that you never really know where is the edge of the game. That's kind of how I think about it. You're kind of like, I wonder if I could do this. And then you try it, and then to your great surprise, it works. And then you're kind of like, well, what else can I do? And you never really know where is the gamey like edge of this video game. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of simulation. And that's the beauty of Blade and Sorcery in particular.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm super excited to play the new update, and I think you really hit the nail on the head with your approach to simulation, sandbox style game development. But before I let you guys go and get back to working on the new update, just one final topic I'd love to briefly touch on. And on that note of, Warpfrog's DNA and the type of games that you make, can you give a quick tease about what you're working on next? I've heard that, a new engine is in development. I've heard that you kind of started ideating on what's next. Just very briefly, if you could tease for everyone what's coming next, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I think so. We are going to the ending with Blade Sorcery. So we are still continuing to do patch and stuff like that, obviously, I think. But yeah, we are going, I think most players know because we already talked about that a bit, but we are going to work on a new title. It's important for us because at the beginning I wanted to work more on Blade Sorcery, but something we have made a promise is to finish Blade Sorcery. So I don't want to be the next Star Citizen on sourcing. So the idea is to just finish the game, release, and also we hit a wall on the technical side. When I first did the game, it was a little combat simulator game, in the arena. And I didn't expect to have so much people jumping on the project. So the frameworks that we call Thunderwood here internally was not really made for team basic work. So we are losing a lot of time on each iteration right now because we pile up a lot of different systems on top of each other with all this year. We have get a bit of spaghetti code, I will call that. So we have to rework from scratch on something new. So we started to work on a new framework. It's going to be much faster. So in fact, we may are stopping Blade Sorcery on that, but we are going to be much faster on the new game. And the idea this time is to have a framework that is made for the team. So it will be the first time that we are working from A to Z on the game with a full team. So it's going to be a bit different. I think it's really important for us because it's a key moment where we can maybe be a bit more ambitious about the game and also see how we can fare up about all the things that did not work on Blade Sorcery technically, behind on medicine better. So we are working on a new game. I can't say too much right now because it's still too soon, but I think a lot of players will like it because we are not going out of the heart of Blade Sorcery.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
We are going to keep the heart.
That's going to be very well received. I think, like you said, working on a new game from the ground up with the team from the beginning, totally different approach that I think is going to allow you to be a lot more ambitious, like you said. So, I will be awaiting new information, pretty impatiently, just like I was for this final update. So, best of luck on Blade and Sorcery Nomad, finishing that game, finishing the PC VR game, and whatever's next for Warpfrog. I wish nothing but the best for the whole studio. I will be a fan until you stop making for sure. So thank you very much, Kospy, Baron, for your time today. I had a great time with both of you and learning more about the studio and the game's development. And if there's any final words you want to share with the audience, go ahead.
One thing I just want to say before we go is I know a lot of people wish we could develop Blade and Sorcery forever. And it's like, I get that. I have that nostalgia too about the game. But this isn't the end of Warpfrog. This is just the beginning of Warpfrog. And this is a grassroots studio that was built by the community. And now let's go. We're built now. So, you had Arena, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. You know what I mean? Like you had this progression of games. And it's going to be true for Warpfrog too. We're going to go on to bigger and better things with each game.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thanks, David. It was great to talk to you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.